Oh, goody.
All right, what's up, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another update video. There's a lot to cover in this one. We got a lot of news. The new 23.0 patch just dropped, brought with more changes to Mercenaries than we've seen in a while, as well as what we're looking at here, a little bit of an update on the future of the mode. So we're going to start with that, and then we're going to get into all the changes that are new in this current patch. But this is one of the bigger things in my opinion, so I wanted to start with it. Before we get into it, if you like this kind of content, do remember to like and subscribe. Helps out the channel a lot and keeps the Mercs videos coming. So let's dive right into it. I'm just going to read it out, and then I'll give you my thoughts here. The future of Hearthstone Mercenaries. You may have noticed that the Mercenaries game mode added only one new mercenary in patch 23.0, the slippery Murloc, Murky, available for free on the rewards track. That's because Mercenaries will be shifting its release cadence in the year of the Hydra. Mercenaries will continue to have updates like events, balance changes, bug fixes, and general improvements in every patch, but the team will be shifting its major content beats to the X.4 patches. That means that the next bunch, and we do mean bunch, of new mercenaries, bounties, and tasks will come in a few months. This shift will allow Mercenaries to have its own big moment like the other major modes do, and will allow the team to focus more efforts on type of improvements the community has been asking for. Throughout this year, the team has plans for a way to spend excess coins, an expanse new endgame system to challenge your whole collection, and a series of improvements to the task system, as well as more events and continuation of regular updates to bounties, zones, and mercenaries. The first of those task system updates and a slew of new mercenaries balance changes are going live right away with patch 23.0, and that is just the beginning. Okay, let's talk about this. I don't like this. I don't like that they're making it. It sounds like they're making it a big, like they said, like the other modes. Like standard, like battlegrounds, where they're making it like what 3 times a year kind of thing. Personally, not too big of a fan of that. I guess it's going to be similar content wise. They're probably just going to drop the amount of mercenaries we would have gotten over that 3 or 4 months all at once, which there are some benefits to that. It does make packs a little bit more worthwhile because you're not just trying to get 5 mercenaries. Now maybe it'll be like 15 or 20 or 25 or however many it is. So there's a little bit of a benefit to that. It makes your packs a little bit less bad because you have new mercs to get. But personally, especially as a PvP invested player, I think one of the great strengths of this mode was that we were getting new characters that kind of spiced up and changed the meta on a relatively monthly basis. And now, if we're going to have to wait every 3 or 4 months for that, that's a really long time. And I am a little concerned that the meta might get stale. Uh, I do think that the current release schedule was maybe a little bit too fast, especially when they did it in the shorter amounts of time in like 3 or 4 weeks. So I can understand wanting to spread it out a little bit more, but I think this might be spreading it out a bit too far. And if they're going to do it like this, they really need to deliver meaningful things with these updates. It can't just be, okay, here's a bunch of mercenaries and some bounties, go. Like, if I'm going to be waiting, a third of a year or something for a big drop, the kind of level needed to actually make that feel good, I think you really got to deliver on that, because if you whiff on that, then the game just sucks for the next, 3 or 4 months, which is kind of a problem I've had with other formats in Hearthstone. So to be honest, this concerns me. I don't I think there's potential for it to be a good thing, but my initial reaction is that this is negative if you're focusing on the PvP stuff. It'll be nice because now I guess it does give people a bit more time to catch up on the characters and stuff, but we've seen how the meta develops in Mercenaries, and I do think that the only way that they can make this be a mostly positive thing, in my opinion, is if it means, and they do mention it a little bit, the shift will allow Mercenaries to have its own big momentum, blah, 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 and will allow the team to focus more on efforts on the types of improvements the community has been asking for. So if we actually do get noticeable improvements, and if they do actually stick to the text here and give us, events, more specifically balance changes, that's a big one. You can't get rid of the monthly Mercs drops and do what you've been doing with balance changes this whole time. Like, we do get some balance changes in this patch, which are fairly big, and I'm going to talk about them, but we can't be waiting 3 or 4 months for balance changes if you're not going to be dropping new Mercs, because the meta will get stagnant, and it's just going to make people leave. Like, they really, if they're going to be doing it this way, we need more regular balance changes. I could understand before why they were hesitant to do balance changes. There's no way of refunding things. They're releasing new characters all the time to try and counter things. Well, now if you're going to be taking it slower on releasing new characters, you got to step up the balance changes. Because if we have to deal with local R for another 2, 3, 4 months before anything meaningful happens, I don't think there's going to be much of a PvP population left. Like, it's really, and Valera as well, but like, God, like, that just, it surprises me that this is the approach they're taking. I do think the monthly releases were probably a difficult thing to do in terms of creating that content. So I wouldn't have minded it slowing down a little. I think this might be slowing it down too much, though. And I think it also kind of weakens one of the strengths of Mercenaries, which was there was always kind of some new interesting stuff to do with it every month. So even if you were bored in another mode, you'd be like, oh, there's new Mercenary stuff, I'll go check that out. And now it seems like that's not going to be the case as much. I mean, we are going to still get events, I guess, so maybe that will be helpful, but it seems weird because the big draw of these events was new Mercenary. Like, maybe they'll still do that, or maybe they'll find another way to do an event. But so far, the 2 events we've had have been focused around getting a new character. Now, that could be a way for them to introduce, one new Mercenary without doing a whole big drop, and that could be good. We are getting a new Mercenary next week, and we'll talk about him when we go over the patch notes shortly. So that could be a way to, give a little bit of shake up into the meta with like one new character in an event. Hopefully they can do that. But they really, if they're going to be doing this type of change, they really need to hit it out of the park when they have this big drop, because it has to last a substantially longer amount of time. And I'm just a little worried that might not be the case, but I'll reserve judgment fully until we actually see it. Worth noting, the 0.4 patches are usually the mini set, if I recall correctly. I believe that's when we got Onyxia's Lair. So if we think about it, the mini set usually comes, I think it's somewhere between a month and a half or 2 months after the main set comes. So we are getting the next set in a week. So realistically, this big content update will probably be about 2 months-ish away at the least, which is quite a bit of time, especially when some of the more problematic characters, in my opinion, really remain rather untouched from this update. So I'm a little concerned about this, but we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, if they do bring more regular balance changes, I could see this not being quite as big of a deal, because that will change up the meta quite a bit. But that's something they really do have to commit towards, and I really hope that they actually mean what they're saying here, and they will actually offer these improvements the communities have been asking for, because we've been getting almost none of them in 6 months. It's just been at a terribly slow pace. It's been really, really bad. So if this does allow for some of the more important things we want to be acted on quicker, whether that be the PvE endgame, the excess coin stuff coming later this year. And they did talk about that in the little video going over this. Basically, they mention currently their plan for the excess coins is they want to use them in a way that buffs up your already maxed characters in some way. I don't think it was specified whether it's going to be purely PvE or PvP. I would wager it's going to be mostly focused on PvE in the end game they're bringing, but I don't think we have any official confirmation on that. So that's kind of just speculation, but they do outright say it in the video going over the new year. They actually start with the mercenary stuff, and they do say that Exus Coins fix coming, there's going to be a use for them, and it's going to be some way to further improve your maxed out guys. More information on that, I guess, in the coming months. But that's kind of the first thing I want to talk about, because I think it's the biggest thing. There were a lot of other big things, though, so let's take a look at the patch notes. Mercenaries updates, task system rework. Starting with this new patch, completing one task in a Mercenaries task progression will automatically move you on to the next task in the Mercenaries progression. You can then continue that Mercenaries task progression until you have completed all tasks for that Mercenary. So what this means, in a lesser amount of words, is that when you complete task 1 for your new character, instead of losing the task and waiting for a new one the next day or going to farm yourself a stranger to get another one, you'll just get task 2, and then you can go through them all, and that's a great change. That is going to significantly reduce the amount of time for things like stranger farming, and I think it's going to make a notable improvement in terms of getting your tasks done and making that more accessible and more enjoyable for a wider range of players, especially those who have not really done a whole ton in the task leveling stuff. And when we get new mercenaries, it will also make it easier to level their tasks up. So overall, positive. Happy to see that. The Mysterious Stranger was intentionally designed and intended to give you more tasks, but since that now will mostly happen automatically, we are reducing his appearance rate. He will still appear occasionally, so you can get more tasks if you abandon a task or complete a mercenary's task progression. You will also still be able to get random new tasks if you leave any normal task slots open for the daily task refresh. So this is fine. I mean, I think it's a little unnecessary to nerf the Stranger, but I guess I get it, because you're probably going to have your task lists full up more often now until you complete stuff. We'll have to see, how much less it's showing up, but it kind of evens out, because even if it shows up less, you only have to get it once, and then you can do all that mercenaries tasks. So not that concerned about that. I think overall net positive for the mode, and is going to make it more enjoyable and easier to farm up both old and new mercenaries. The intent of the system update is to give players more of the tasks they want, and more tasks overall, while allowing players to explore more engaging gameplay patterns. We hope this new system will be an improvement for players trying to progress specific mercs, or anybody who is always looking for the next task to complete. We will monitor how this new system works and make adjustments if needed, but we are also working on an even larger task system rework that we are hoping to share more information about later on this year. So they're going to do something else, but I guess this is what we get in the meantime. Again, net positive, happy to see it. Moving on. New Mercenary. So we found out about this guy the other day, but now we know what he does. Murky. I guess he was a character in Heroes of the Storm. I think he showed up in WoW as well. Murky, epic fighter, 11 attack, 79 max health stats, abilities, and he's obviously a Murloc. So abilities, slime time 5, nature, speed 4, deal 12 damage to an enemy. Give it taunt until the end of next turn. That's kind of cool. Giving an opponent taunt is pretty interesting. Bubbly Bobble, nature, speed 4, cooldown 1, restore 13 health to an adjacent Murloc. Swap places and both gain divine shield. Nature combo, repeat this. Well, I do like the swapping places ability. I do like gaining divine shield. I don't understand the repeat this that much. I guess this is random, huh? It doesn't say target. So, yeah, I guess you'll swap again if you combo it. It's kind of weird, but sure. This is kind of good for Murloc summons, so you can make your summons take the hit, and they have a divine shield, so they live, and that's kind of cool. I'll have to see this in the game before I can really have much more of an opinion, because this is a very strange ability, but we have seen the placement swapping be pretty good with Longjin. So we'll have to see if it works like that, but I imagine it would. And then Pufferfish, speed 7, cooldown 1. It's a summon. So Murloc, 15 attack, 10 health. Death Rattle, deal damage equal to this minion's attack to 3 random enemies. That's pretty decent. It can't crit though, so it won't be dealing more than 15 unless you buff it up somehow, but that's still pretty cool. Don't mind that. Equipment, time to Krill, passive, whenever a friendly Murloc attacks an enemy with taunt, give them +4 attack. Okay, so there's a way to buff up your Murlocs, and Murky does have a way to force taunt on your opponents, so that's kind of neat. Then we have Slippery when wet, passive. After one of your characters loses Divine Shield or Frozen, its next ability is 3 speed faster. So a bit of anti-freeze tech there. You know, if you get frozen, you're fast next turn. I don't think that's the anti-freeze we needed, but it isn't just anti-freeze. I guess that's kind of a bonus. You know, the Divine Shield also applies, and he does have a way of providing Divine Shield, so that is an interesting way to provide some speed buffs, I suppose. And then March of the Murlocs, Battlecry, summon 2 10/10 Murlocs. All right. I was hoping we'd get a little bit more Murloc synergy and stuff. I like seeing a unit that can summon 2 Murlocs right off the bat. In my opinion, this is going to be kind of a hard character to evaluate. The thing is, our Murlocs right now really aren't that good. Cookie's by far the best one. Murky is kind of okay, but hasn't seen play in a while. And the big thing is we're lacking a red Murloc. There's just no red Murloc currently. So I don't know if Murky is going to be enough to bring Murlocs back into the meta here, but we'll have to wait and see. He will be dropping for free in the Tavern Pass when it launches a week from today. Moving on. And yeah, they just mentioned that there. Mercenary balance updates and reworks. All right, this is stuff we want to see. So I'm just going to run through all these. Some of these are really weird, and I don't even understand why they did some of them. And some of them are actually kind of impactful and decent. So right off the bat, Baron old stats, max 1082. Now it's a 1086, so a little bit more health there. Sure, happy to see that. And they changed his Molten Blade equipment, where it would make heating up deal 4 more damage. Now it deals 7 more damage. Nobody's playing Baron for heating up. The stats are cool. I don't understand why they made the change to the equipment. It's not going to impact pretty much anything meaningfully. So weird change. King Mukla, dinner time, old, speed 2, cooldown 1. Now it is speed 1, cooldown 1. Sure, we take those. It's not insane, but it's not bad, so we'll take it. Refreshing Bananas equipment. Bananas give an additional 4 health. Now they give an additional 5, so 6 total health. That can actually be pretty decent. We saw a few times in King of the Hill using Mukla on the bench with the HP scaling can actually be kind of nuts, depending on what you're going up against. So kind of cool to see it get a little buff there. And then Radioactive Bananas also gets a buff. Now Bananas give an additional +4 attack instead of +2, so it's 5 attack total. That's a lot of attack. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to make it see any type of real play, but it's an interesting buff nonetheless. Moving on, Zyrella Atonement. So the old version was deal 15 damage, +3 damage each time you restore 20 health. The new one is deal 20 damage, +3 damage each time you restore 20 health. Didn't see play before, it's not going to see play now. Robes of Purity equipment, old. Atonement requires 5 less healing to upgrade. Now it requires 10 less healing to upgrade. So 10 healing to upgrade. Again, this isn't a reason you're going to be playing Zyrella. So cool, but not really relevant. Scabs, one of the most memed on mercenaries out there. Got a stat buff from 1177 to 1381. So that's not insignificant. You know, 4 more HP, 2 more attack. Never a bad thing. We have SI7 Contract, the equipment, it used to make Tactical Strikes combo deal 4 more damage, now it deals 8 more damage. And then Honing Rod equipment, Shadow Blade gives an additional 10 attack first now instead of 4 attack, so it's a lot more attack. don't think it's going to be good enough to make Scab see any kind of real play, but who knows? And we have Millhouse. Millhouse also got a bit of a stat buff, 5 more HP from 69 to 74 max. Greater arcane missiles. So the old version shoot 3 missiles at random enemies that deal 15 damage each. Now the new one upped that damage to 20 damage each. And then arcane powder equipment. It went from giving arcane explosion 4 more damage to 5 more damage, and enemies lose stealth. Now, pay attention to that last part, because we are seeing this added to a fair amount of characters' abilities. They did not nerf Valyria in this patch whatsoever. Big shocker. And this is kind of their roundabout way of trying to nerf Valyria without nerfing Valyria, it seems. And we'll see if it does anything, but I am... looking at the characters they've put it on, I'm not very hopeful this is going to do very much about Valyria, and I think they are going to have to adjust her eventually, and frankly, I'm surprised they didn't take this time to adjust her, but we'll get to that after we cover the other characters. Cariel. So Cariel got a stat buff too, but she just got +1 attack. Again, some of these changes are just so small and inconsequential that it almost makes me wonder why they were made at all. I really don't understand why, like, I mean, I've been on record saying I want them to buff some of these launch mercs, but they're doing it in a very strange way that I really don't think is going to impact at least the PvP side of things very much for most of these characters. There are a few that stand out, though. We just haven't gotten to them yet. Cariel, so yeah, 1 extra attack. Crusader's Blow, the Death Blow now restores 60 health instead of 40. Again, inconsequential. And then Tome of Light. Before, when the Merc had Taunt, it got +8 attack. Now it gets +12 attack. So it can be kind of beefy. But again, I don't think that's going to be enough to make Cariel see play. Uther. This one I was kind of excited about. And then I read it. Uther, he gets memed on really hard, and for good reason. He's just absolutely trash in PvP. You could argue he has some PvE usefulness sometimes in like a holy comp, but he's just not great. So what his buffs were: Blessing and Protection. Before, restore 10 health to a friendly character, give them Taunt this turn. And now it restores 14 health to a friendly character, gives them Taunt this turn. Yeah, that wasn't why he wasn't seeing play. Lightbringer equipment. Before, Hammer of Justice would deal 4 more damage and slow the target by 2 more speed. Now it deals 6 more damage, slows the target by 2 more speed. Yeah, also garbage. Gleaming Pauldrons equipment. Old, rank 4. Avenging Wrath deals 4 more damage. Now Avenging Wrath deals 8 more damage. Well, Avenging Wrath is terrible. Maybe that makes it see a little bit more PvE play, but I'll tell you right now, it's not showing up in PvP. Yeah, a bunch of really weird changes in some of these characters, but we are getting to some of the ones I do like. Garrosh. So Garrosh got an additional attack. Cool, not that big of a deal. And then Orcish Banner. Battle Shout also restores 10 health to your orcs. And now, that was the old one, and now Battle Shout also restores 15 health to your orcs. I don't think anyone was running Battle Shout or Orcish Banner. Yeah, Orcish Banner is the equipment. So I don't think that's going to make much of a meaningful change to the orc builds. This one might, though. This is our first change I'm actually really happy about. Captain Galvangar. So Galvangar got an additional 8 HP, which is a ton. That is a lot of HP. He was one of the characters I was saying you really almost kind of have to max him to be playing with him because his base HP was so low. I mean, it was what, 66 before, and now base HP is 74, 79 at max. That's pretty significant. Rending Cleave. The old version, attack an enemy. If it has not acted this turn, apply bleed 8 to it and adjacent enemies. The new version, attack an enemy. If it has not acted this turn, apply bleed 12 to it and adjacent enemies. There is also a change with how bleed works, which we will get to after going over the buffs here. But overall, cool. I mean, it was already pretty good at bleed 8. It's better at bleed 12. Don't mind seeing that at all. And then his equipment with the bleed, Fatal Strike also applies bleed 5. Now it applies bleed 10 instead. So I still don't think you're going to run that over the plus attack equipment. However, the stat increase is the big thing. The stat increase and the little bit of free extra bleed damage are both pretty significant, and I think it is going to make Galvangar better and see more play. Next up, we have Wrathion here. He did get some stat buffs, so now he got 6 more additional HP, goes up to 1279. Some changes to his abilities, so Creeping Madness before, attack an enemy, next turn they must use an ability or take 20 damage. Now, attack an enemy, next turn they must use a different ability or take 25 damage. I mean, I'll take the extra damage, but this isn't why Wrathion wasn't seeing play. And then one of his equipment got changed to Black Dragon Scales. Before, Tail Swipe also applies bleed 5. Now it applies bleed 10 with this equipment. I don't think that's good. These are not the changes Wrathion needed to see play, and I don't think anything's going to change with that. Then we have probably the most memed on mercenary here, Vanessa. So before, Vanessa was a 1075, now she's a 1375, so got a bit of extra attack there. Burgle Barrage was changed from attack an enemy, combo, steal 5 attack from them, to now being attack an enemy, combo, steal 5 attack from them first. So that's pretty decent, not insane, but not bad. And then the extra pockets equipment. Before, after using makeshift weaponry, this Merc keeps up to 5 attack. Now, after using makeshift weaponry, this Merc keeps up to 10 attack. That ability seemed kind of slow for PvP, in my opinion. Don't know if this is going to change it, but I kind of doubt it. However, we do have some other pirate buffs, so we'll have to see how that pans out. Then we have Tyrande, so Arcane Salvo. This is one of the characters I really like the change on. Before, deal 8 damage to 2 random enemies. Now it's deal 12 damage to 2 random enemies. If any die, repeat this. So that's a strong ability, especially against more token summon stuff, or if you jack this up with some arcane damage from Longjin or Millhouse or something. So I like this change. Anything to make Tyrande a bit more viable is good in my book. And then now her Alun's Charm equipment. Before, it would make Arcane Shot deal 5 more damage. Now, Arcane Shot deals 15 more damage if the enemy is already acted. So kind of punishing opponents for going quickly. That's pretty good. I kind of like that quite a bit. So do like seeing buffs to Tyrande. I don't know if it's going to make her see that much more play, but we'll wait and see. Then we have Varian Rin. So Splitting Strike, old, attack an enemy, death blow, give your humans plus 12 attack. New, attack an enemy, death blow, give your humans plus 15 attack. The death blow is a rare thing, so this is probably not that relevant. Heroic Leap, deal 14 damage to an enemy. Your other humans are permanently 1 speed faster was the old one. The new one, deal 14 damage to an enemy. Your other humans in play and bench are permanently 1 speed faster. That's good. I mean, I'm happy they buffed that. It's cool that we're seeing buffs be able to be applied on the bench, but 1 speed is rather slow. So I don't know if that's going to make a big difference in the human comps, but I guess we'll wait and see. Retaliation. This I'm surprised they buffed, but we will take it. Before, after an enemy attacks this turn, gain +5 attack and attack it. Now, after an enemy attacks this turn, gain +5/+5 and attack it. So this is actually pretty cool. This is probably one of the bigger buffs, you know, letting Varian survive more when he's automatically attacking into stuff and retaliating is pretty cool. And then his War Banner equipment, before it used to make it so retaliation gave an additional +4 attack. Now retaliation gives it a +2 attack and +10 health. So that actually could be a reason to use a different equipment on Varian, whereas before you're just using the passive attack gain. This, I mean, additional +2 +10, that means every time you're attacking with that retaliation, you're gaining +7 attack, +15 health. That's a lot. So maybe this will be enough to make Varian start seeing a little bit of play again. He was used a little bit as a Valyria counter for some time, but kind of fell off eventually. Gul'dan. Okay, so Reign of Destruction. Before, speed 8, cooldown 1. Now, speed 8, cooldown 0. I don't know anybody who has ever used this ability in PvP, so I don't think this is going to change Gul'dan very much. The equipment change is kind of cool and thematic, and I guess a buff towards fell strategies a little bit. Before, it was after an orc dies, gain +4 fell damage. Now, after an orc or demon dies, gain plus fell damage. That is kind of notable for like some of the fell summons, specifically like the Jiraxis summons and stuff that are demons, and then they die and they can proc the Gul'dan. I like the change. I don't think it's enough to make a dedicated orc and demons or demons comp work, given our current options. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Trigor, this is one of the better changes in my opinion. Frenzied attack. Before, attack an enemy. If it took damage this turn, deal 12 to a random adjacent enemy. Now, attack an enemy. If this took damage this turn, deal 16 to a random adjacent enemy. So a little bit of a damage buff there, but that's not really the one I'm as excited about. Backlash is kind of the bigger one. So that one was the next time an enemy damages an adjacent ally, gain +5 attack and deal this Merc's attack damage to them. And now it is gain +5 attack. Each time an enemy damages an adjacent ally this turn, deal this Merc's attack damage to them. That's a pretty big difference. Before, it was just a one-time proc. And now, anytime one of your allies, so if you have Trigor in the middle, anytime one of your allies gets damaged, Trigor is going to be smacking them for a bunch of damage. That's pretty crazy, actually. This is one of the bigger buffs, in my opinion, and we might start see Trigor seeing some play now, because that is a huge change into how this character works and really ups their damage output. So happy to see that one. This next one, I was actually also really happy to see these next two, as if you saw the pirate comp I played a little while ago by Finney, both these characters and another buffed character, Galvangar, are all in it as leads. So this is pretty cool, and I'm definitely going to jam some games with that on ladder real soon now, because it was already a fairly decent counter to at least specifically Frost, and now maybe it will be a bit better against some of the other stuff. But Sneed. So Sneed got an additional 9 attack, going from 777 to 977. Active Saw got a change. Before it was gain +6 attack for 2 turns, attack a random enemy. Now it is gain +9 attack for 2 turns, attack a random enemy. So you're getting more attack off of that Active Saw ability. Worth noting, this is also relevant because of an equipment, which also got a buff that lets you start with Active Saw on turn 1. So it's not even that this ability in itself is very good, but the fact that you can start with that +9 attack and make Sneed's 18 attack, and then make him even higher with Galvangar potentially, is actually pretty sweet. And then Skull Dust equipment got a buff. Before, Buzz gains bleed 5, now Buzz gains bleed 10. Probably really not relevant. The next one is sweet though, extra blades. So before, Sneed starts with active blades active for 1 turn. Now Sneed starts with Active Saw active for 2 turns. That's a pretty big difference. I mean, you get to keep that 9 attack for a whole extra turn. So that really actually improves the damage output of Sneed's quite a bit, and it allows him to get off a second AoE hit, which is kind of one of the powerful things he can do, especially against things that summon, like Belinda's Water Elemental. So really like these changes for Sneed's, actually. One of the ones I was more happy to see. Speaking of ones I was happy to see, we do have Edwin here. Edwin got quite a bit of changes, so his Assassin's Blade went from attack an enemy if it hasn't acted yet, gain +5 attack and attack it again. Now it's attack an enemy if it hasn't acted yet this turn, gain +10 health and attack it again. So a little bit of survivability, cool, don't mind seeing that. Would have liked this to have been sped up a little bit, to be honest, but we'll take it. Then Kingpin's Bounty went from 2 cooldown to 1 cooldown. Yeah, I don't know why they ever had this on 2 cooldown. I don't even think people are going to use it on 1 cooldown, so sure. One of the better changes here, though, and one I've been advocating for a while, Black Flag equipment. Before, adjacent pirates are 4 speed faster. Now, passive, your other pirates are 4 speed faster. This is a great change. This is how Edwin should have launched, in my opinion. And frankly, they probably could have gotten away with all your pirates are 4 speed faster. Like, yeah, it'd make Edwin really fast and whatnot, but who cares? Valyria already does it better. So, I mean, I think they could have been, push the edge with it a little bit more, but we'll take this. This gets rid of the weird anti-synergy he had with Eudora and the cannon positioning and stuff. And, yeah, it's just, I think it should have been at least like this from the start. So I'm happy to see that change. And then the other equipment also got a change. So it went from Kingpin's Bounty restoring 10 more health and affecting all friendly characters. Now it restores 15 health instead. Sure, great. Probably not going to see use, but sure. Thrall. Here we have more. We're going to see more of these anti-stealth things. So Thrall's Lightning Storm got changed. It still deals the same amount of damage, but now it removes stealth to whatever it hits. We're going to see a few characters got stuff like this, and it seems this is the way they're trying to counter stealth in Valyria, and I mean, I'll take it, but it's not going to be consistent enough to have a crazy impact, in my opinion. You don't really want to be lightning storming with Thrall, and then they can just speed up again the next turn at 3 speed, and I don't know. It seems kind of weird to me, but at least Thrall's a decent character, so, and it's a free thing, so we'll take it. Manarath, Howl of Terror, before reduced the attack of all enemies by 15 this turn, now does the same thing, they lose stealth. Yeah, sure, we'll take that. Manarath still probably isn't going to see any play because demons suck. And demons didn't really get any help in this patch, surprisingly enough. Don't really understand that, but okay. Ragnaros, this one is really weird, but we'll also take it, and this is probably tied as like the best anti-stealth thing. Die Insect, before dealt 22 to a random enemy, death blow repeat it, all that text is still there, but now if it hits an enemy that is stealthed, it loses stealth, so free rag buff. I like Rag. We'll take those. Rag was already seeing a bunch of play, anti-frost stuff. He was already good against Valyria. Now he's better against Valyria. But it's just weird that this is the way they're choosing to pseudo nerf Valyria. Warmaster Voon, a character that has become more popular recently. So Axe Throw, before it would deal 8 damage to an enemy and one of its neighbors. Now it deals 10 damage to an enemy and one of its neighbors, and they lose stealth. So I like this one. This is, I think, probably the best, or tied for the best, of removing the stealth, because this is something you want to do on turn 1 anyway. Gives you a little bit of bonus damage too, which is never a bad thing. And you can pretty much always line this up so it will hit Valyria, and since it is 4 speed, it will go off after she goes off and remove the stealth. So cool. Like to see it. Again, I don't think this is the right way to nerf Valyria, but it's better than nothing, so we'll take it. And then probably the most interesting change of the bunch here is going to be with Varden. So this is the only character I would consider to have gotten some nerfs here, and they are kind of reworks, but I think overall they are going to make the character a bit less powerful. Not really how I would have gone about changing Varden. I think the best change you could have made to Varden is doing something about Cold Snap being able to be done every other turn with all of the ridiculous amount of speed up we have. I mean, I'm guessing they're thinking, well, we have ways to get Valyria out of stealth now, so it won't be as bad. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We'll have to wait and see. But what did they change with Varden? So Flurry. Before, it was deal 6 damage to 3 enemy mercs. They are 2 speed slower next turn. Now, shoot 3 missiles at random enemies that deal 7 damage each and slow for 2 speed next turn. So there are a few different things there. One, it no longer specifies mercs. So now this can hit summons. That's a pretty big nerf. Before, Varden would not hit summons at all. Now all your damage can go into a summon. It is also worth noting that the 2 speed stacks, so that if you hit one character with 2 of these missiles, it's going to be 4 slower. 3 of these missiles, 6 slower, and so on. I think this is a good nerf. I think Varden's ability was just way too good. I don't think Flurry was necessarily the thing about Varden that needed to be nerfed. But I do think with the abundance of power Frost has, especially now with the free scaling from Localar, I think this is a good change. Varden will still be good, but they won't deal 1 million damage to your 3 mercenaries on turn 1 if you happen to act before a Localar. So overall, positive change, but kind of a strange one, but it does make Varden less consistent, which is probably a good thing for the game. And then this next one, Chilling Amulet. So the old version was deal 8 damage to all enemies, freeze a random enemy unit until the end of next turn. Now, the new version, deal 14 damage to all enemies and freeze a random enemy. So at first glance, this might look like a buff, but it is not. There's extra damage there, sure, great, whatever. However, you're not freezing something until the end of next turn. Really big nerf to Varden's Death Rattle. Before, the strength of it was that you're basically guaranteed to have something frozen next turn, and sometimes you could get additional bonus value if Varden died and you happen to freeze something before it acts. Now it's a lot worse. This is like notably worse. But again, this isn't really a thing I mind seeing, to be honest. I do think the freeze Death Rattle lasting a whole other turn was a insanely strong thing to have on a Death Rattle. And so I'm really not that sad to see it go. The only thing that concerns me a little bit is now I think we're going to see a lot of Vardens just ditching this entirely in favor of the Frost scaling, which already seemed like a very powerful equipment. So we'll have to see if these changes actually do make a noticeable impact on Varden. But overall, I would consider this to be the first major non-bug fix nerf we have gotten. That is it for our character balance updates, though. Surprisingly, no Localar and no Valera to be mentioned. Like I said, they are clearly trying to tone down Valera staying in stealth all the time. I think they're taking a very light-handed approach to that, and I think that's incorrect. I think you really just have to just get it out of the way, hit both these characters. They will still be incredibly strong characters even after being nerfed. And I just think that that's what they should have led with. Or if they didn't want to lead with changes like that, they needed to give us, I think, stronger changes more across the board. Like Murlocs got nothing. Demons, aside from that one line of Manaroth text, which isn't going to be relevant most of the time, got nothing. And some of the characters that did get buffed had some very inconsequential buffs. So, kind of strange. Some of them I am happy to see. Rag, Voon, good changes. The Pirates, good changes. Galvangar, good change. But it felt like a lot of these changes felt very random and inconsequential. So I'm hoping that, given the prior announcement, we're going to get more balance changes regularly now. And that means that, they're okay with just doing some light touches here, seeing what happens, and then making more changes, later on in the month, early next month, whenever, instead of, waiting 6 months before changing anything, like has basically been the case in the past. So if that's the case, I guess I can understand a little bit more light touch of an approach, but we'll have to wait and see. I do hope they do start churning out more regular balance updates, though, because otherwise I do worry that the PvP will start to get stale faster as we have less characters to kind of spice up the meta and whatnot. Additional updates, small stuff here. So while on a bounty, the campfire node will now allow work. That's poor wording. With one click instead of requiring it to be selected and then entered. Sure, whatever. Veil of Straw's bounty will now be able to grant Murky coins instead of Anaconda coins. Good change. We need some way to get his coins, and since we're not getting a new bounty right away, they had to put it somewhere, so I guess they put it in Veil of Straw's bounty. This is a big change here. Multiple stacks of bleed will now be combined into a total bleed count, and that can be reduced by healing instead of erased entirely. So my understanding, and before I dive into that, bleed damage will no longer be able to deal crit damage. That's a big change. That is a very big change. We did see they did try and buff the amount of bleed is doing to make up for that a bit. I don't know if I like bleed not critting anymore. I actually don't really like that personally. I think it made a lot of sense for the bleed to crit, but they're kind of changing how it works as a mechanic. However, now healing won't entirely erase it, but I think that's going to be kind of fringe unless... I guess it can work out if you're stacking some really big bleeds and stuff, but that hasn't really been the case so far in PvP very much. So I don't know if that's going to change just by them buffing some bleed abilities and then implementing this change where now, on the plus side, you know, if you heal for like 5 or a small amount, you can't get rid of a 10 damage bleed, right? It'll bring it down to 5. So it's kind of a buff for it, but like, I don't know. I think the nerf to it dealing crit damage is more of a downside than the upside from the not erasing it entirely. So kind of strange. Don't know if I'm a big fan of it, but we will have to see how that ends up working out. And then adjusted mercenary card display and screen space for better ability previews. No idea what that means. Yeah, so that's all the mercenaries news we really got here. A bunch of other news for other modes and stuff. At the bottom, they do have some bug fix stuff. It actually seemed kind of light on bug fixes, though they do mention at the bottom, miscellaneous other performance enhancing and bug fixes, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read through all these and stuff, but if you do want to check out all this stuff, I will have the links available in the description. This is over 2 articles. The one with these changes is the patch notes, and then the one talking about the future of Mercenaries is in the Year of the Hydra. We can see they do have a little roadmap here, and this does mention kind of what they're planning to do. So here we can see, you know, set rotation, expansion, mini set, yada yada, balance updates, seasonal event, Mercenary. So Mercenaries has a place in each of these things, and of course they have their little hidden away thing. They did confirm no other new game modes coming this year, thank God. They already spread themselves too thin, in my opinion. So they really just need to focus on making what they have great, and rather than just trying to reinvent the wheel with something new. They did address that, though, and they said that's what they want to focus on this year is, you know, enhancing the experience of all these different modes. So a lot of big information. I'm curious to hear what everyone thinks about it. I definitely have some mixed feelings about some of it. I don't know that them changing the release cycle of Mercenaries like this is going to be a good thing for the long-term health of the mode. That could change, you know, if they do implement that, if they do make these patches a really big thing where they don't just give us, you know, 15, 20, however many new mercenaries in that big patch, but they also do something to make the mode better, like actually give us that endgame PvE type of stuff, where they give us just any of the different changes or fixes we've been wanting for all this time and have heard essentially nothing on. And they talk about that, you know, changing the release cycle will hopefully allow them to do more of that. But I'm not going to hold my breath on it. I'll wait and see what actually happens with that, because it's already been a very slow timetable in that regard so far. But I hope to see that change. And again, the big thing that I think they really need to commit to is, if you're going to be spreading out the content releases like this, you need to be giving more regular balance updates. Otherwise, the mode is going to get incredibly stagnant. Frankly, one of my favorite things about Mercenaries was the fact that we would have the meta upended every month or so. And I think that really allowed the PvP to thrive. And if we don't see new mercs and we don't see changes every couple of weeks or month or whatever it is, that concerns me for the long-term health of PvP. So they really need to, if you want to make a big change like that, you also have to get more players playing your game. And for them to get more players playing the game, they have to fix a lot of the stuff the community has been telling them to fix for 6 months. So maybe this will lead to positive stuff. Again, I do think the stranger change and the change to tasks is a net positive that will make it more enjoyable to grind out tasks and whatnot for both experienced players and new or returning players. So that's a pretty big win. And the one nice thing about the releases being spread out into kind of similar like expansions is that you can save up more packs and then you can open them and your packs won't be quite as bad because you'll have a lot more new mercenaries to get. So the one thing that really strikes me as strange with this, though, is that I'm calling it right now. This is a decision, and this doesn't impact me or the player base very much directly, but this is a decision that's going to lose them money. There are a lot of flaws with the current system that we have, but I guarantee you there are going to be multiple people spending way less money on this mode because of the fact that they don't need to get new characters every month. And again, that doesn't impact me. That doesn't impact a lot of the player base, but it seems weird that, you know, with how money hungry Blizzard has been about this mode, that they would make a conscious decision to dial back the thing that's actually making the money every month. So that seems kind of weird to me. I'm not going to fully judge that change until I see the impact of it, but we do know we'll be getting that new Murky next week. They did say, you know, events will still be happening. Like, Mercs isn't going to be left alone entirely for however long between the big patches with new characters. It says they're still going to do stuff for it, but we'll just have to wait and see how much they actually do, because that could mean a lot or that could mean nothing. We really have to just wait and see what it's like, because they do more regular balance updates and stuff. I think it's possible for the PvP to remain fresh over that long period of time. And then when we get such a big drop, it really can shift things up more dramatically, hopefully. It'll kind of be like, you know, Standard or Wild or these main Hearthstone modes where we will have like a huge shakeup instead of like a small shakeup every month. That's not really my preference personally, and it does kind of suck for content creation too, because I did enjoy getting all the stuff out, but I guess it is a net positive for anyone who felt the releases were a little bit too rapid. I think they could have found a better middle ground with this, though, personally. I think that instead of doing monthly drops, maybe drops every 2 months or something would have been better, but maybe they compensate for that by being like a really, really large bunch of mercenaries. Maybe it's even more than I said. Maybe it's more than 20 mercenaries. Maybe it's more than 25 mercenaries. And if it ends up balancing out to where we end up getting the same or more mercenaries that we would have gotten over that span of months just all at once, I guess that's fine. Like I said, though, I'm not going to judge it 100% until we get our first, you know, next Mercenaries update and we get our next big drop, and then I will give more thoughts and opinions once I see kind of the direction the game is heading in. And I'm very curious to see what exactly the extra coins fix eventually entails. It is coming sometime this year. They didn't really give much more info than that, but they did say it is going to be some way to power up your characters further. So unfortunately, it doesn't sound like there's any kind of conversion system like a lot of people wanted in the works. Not too surprised by that, but am a little bit disappointed. But I'm going to withhold judgment on that fully until I actually see what the change is. Hey, maybe if they make PvE endgame really good and they actually make these coins serve a valuable, satisfying purpose, then maybe it'll be a good change. But until then, I'm sitting on my pile of 300,000 extra coins that I can't do anything with, and we'll just have to wait to hear more. But that is pretty much all the Mercenaries info we have here. These patch changes are live and now, so you can update the game. It probably will take a few hours to go out on mobile, but it is live on desktop now. So if you want to go check out some of these changes, go grind up some strangers or try out some of the buffed mercs in PvP, or see if the Varda nerf actually did enough to dethrone Frost a bit, you can do that right now. But I want to thank you so much for watching. Would love to hear what you think about some of these changes in the comments below. If you enjoyed the content, do remember to like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.